Hey there, AMC Turn fans. Welcome to another edition of the AMC Turn After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. Tonight, we are talking about Season 4, Episode 6, Our Man in New York. And guys, we have a very, very special guest, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Normally, I'm good with starting with the regular opening theme, but considering how great this episode was, I felt we needed to mix it up just a little bit.
I'm surprised that you suggested this because normally I'm the one going, we should start with this completely off-topic song that I absolutely adore. And then you came up with one that was really fitting and wonderful, and yeah.
Her name is Lola. It's perfect. How would you not want to start with that?
It's a thing of wonder and beauty. I was just not expecting that from you because you're kind of an opening theme purist.
Usually I am, but there are exceptions to every rule, I feel like. Well, hello there, AMC Turn fans. Tonight we are talking about Season 4, Episode 6, and I want to say welcome to everybody in the live chat and on the hashtag. Let me go ahead and introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies. You can follow me all over the social medias at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet.
And joining us in studio again, returning guest star champion and new lead host of this panel, Samuel Roukin.
Hello.
Woo!
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, we are very, very happy to have you. I'm Megan Salinas. Also, you guys can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. For those of you on Twitter, we are keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTVTurn. So for you guys who have any questions for our awesome guest Samuel, and Katie's got you guys on the live chat.
I've got the live chat, I've got the Twitter, I've got all of the technology, and I've got a Wikipedia page up too.
We're gonna
do something prepared, y'all.
Buckles and braces.
We're gonna do something we don't normally do on this show and talk some actual history. It's gonna be a good time. So Samuel, again, thank you so much for coming back. How does it feel? Because it's such a mixed bag of emotions this season, and we're just covering it. But for you guys, it must be kind of also a mixed bag of emotions because this season has been incredible, but it also sort of has to be because it's the final one. How's it been so far?
It's been great. I think I personally, and I know that we all are really proud of what we've put out this season. I think we've been proud all along, but I think it's really exciting to finish a show knowing that you're going into the end, that you get to finish it on your own terms. That's what we've done, and it's really pleasurable, and it was really satisfying. And I'm so excited to see that it's come out the way that it felt we were making it. And each episode tops the one before. And I wish I could tell you how it's going to wrap up, because it's so brilliant what they've done, and so smart and so classy that it's just been a lot. It's just been so much fun to know about the arcs that are being completed and to complete our own arcs too.
It's funny that you say that because we only have 4 episodes left, and especially after an episode like this, I'm sitting here going how are there only 4 episodes left?
Yeah.
It feels like there's still a lot of momentum this season, and we only have 4 episodes to wrap everything up. That blows my mind and also upsets me on a number of levels.
Well, I feel like we can go into a little less detail on the war itself because if you know anything about history, or if you've recently listened to Hamilton, you know that we are fast approaching the Battle of Yorktown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of that in terms of the historical side, in terms of the fiction side, in terms of really getting into it with our characters. I feel like we're going to spend a little more time with them than on the battlefield, because that's where the audience is in suspense. That's where we're sitting here going, what's going to happen? I don't know. I'm purposefully not looking at you because it's you know everything. It's tell me.
You can.
Tell me.
He's got a perfect poker face on right now.
Well, the exciting thing about it is, obviously we know what happens historically, but the other thing we know is that the world continues turning.
Hey.
Now, come on. Behave yourself.
No, that was good.
You're right. I handed you that one. 1-0.
Are we keeping score?
No.
Oh.
I think it'd be rude not to.
All right.
Let's keep it polite. But it's about setting up what happens to these characters beyond where we stop telling the story. I think that's what's exciting about it, and seeing how these relationships, you know, find their next act, really, you know.
Yeah, and it's been really satisfying to just this season, because we've talked about it in previous episodes so far, but seeing previous characters come back who I had kind of written off for one reason or another. Akinbude came back.
Yeah.
I never thought he was going to come back, and here he is.
He was on another show.
He was on another show.
He was hard to get.
Yeah. And I'm really glad he's back, because I feel like that presents a very satisfying conclusion to his arc, I hope.
He's been on this show, hasn't he?
He has, not since season
yeah.
one, but it's been a long time since we've had him, so it would be awesome. Hey, if you happen to be watching, you're more than welcome to come back. But yeah, so like that's also great. But another character who came back, who I was a wonderful addition at the very end of the last episode, Hewlett coming back.
Yeah.
Was
what a nice reveal that was.
Insanely satisfying, and this entire episode with him was fantastic, because you're sitting here going, what's his end game here? If he wanted to just throw Abe in prison, he could at any given moment.
Yeah.
And that's where like the tension lies in a lot of these scenes too. And so the audience is left guessing, well, why hasn't he? What's his sort of end game here? Because anytime he wants, he could just throw Abe away.
Nothing has gotten better for him. He couldn't sell his commission; it was worthless, and he straight up calls it a losing war.
Yeah,
which is a problem if you're on the losing side. And he's back here as the chief intelligence officer, and nobody cares about intelligence. Like, people are underestimating him in this position, and then people cared about Andre, kind of, but it was still just like, well, but you're doing intelligence, and it's kind of, that's not really battlefield glory. It's dishonorable.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that it was definitely at the time seen as a very dishonorable trade, but hate to say it, that's how you get your tactical information to actually win the battle. So.
Oh, absolutely. So at this point, it's a losing war. He's still in a position where people don't respect him. He's only here to try and recoup some of the loss that he's had. So what's the point of putting Abe in jail? Like, what is the actual point?
It's expediency, isn't it? And I think he really exemplifies that idea of what's going to happen when this ends. What's my exit strategy? You know, and we're seeing that happen in front of us.
Yeah.
It's a great reveal, you know, like why he's there.
Yeah,
You know?
also getting like the view of the war from England, which is something we don't really get a whole.
That's right.
We haven't had that since our scenes with King George. It's been a dog's age.
It's been a bit, and so it's actually kind of nice to get that outside character perspective of like, look, this isn't going to end well. Yeah, I just need to think about me and my life after this is all done. Which is a very interesting turn for him, because he's been such a noble character up until this point. And I don't have the line right in front of me, but he had this wonderful line about like how there is no honor, and men, you know, there's nothing good to fight for. Why, like, and men and people are not good. Why should I be any different? And I think that speaks volumes of where he's, in terms of his character arc and development, where he's gone. And it's really sad to see such a noble, romantic character fall that far after he's basically lost everything.
But it's also, again, that is another example of incredible writing on this show, is that is the result of trauma. You know,
Yeah.
he's been hurt many times. He almost lost his life a couple of times. You know, he's been through, you know, the trauma of the war, for one, but also, you know, personal traumas have put him in a place where he's now got nothing to lose, and being nice has got him nowhere. So, you know, you can look at it on a big level of in that way too, but it's also, you know, just great character study, great human psychology.
Yeah.
I love that about the writing on this show. You know, it happens all over the place.
Oh yeah, no, there's so many, like, I can't wait to rewatch this season, because there's just so many great subtle things. And we were talking last week about Abe taking a master class in shade. Both Hewlett and Abe in this episode were absolutely on point with their double entendres the entire time. It's such smart, good writing, and all of you guys in the cast, you knock it out of the park every single time. So it's insanely fun to watch.
There is much yelling and throwing of pillows and scaring the cat in our apartment when we watch the show.
I use certain expletives that are not good for this, that are not good for our podcast.
I can't believe that.
No, this show makes me curse quite a bit.
It's kind of amazing.
Particularly this season, too. And talking about, like, really great scenes that actually, like, and again, the writing's there, too, but strangely enough, they have no dialogue. One of my favorite moments in this episode was just the scene of the two of them, Hewlett and Simcoe, in the bar, just staring down at one another. Oh!
Yeah.
Not a word spoken, and it's just chilling.
It's a really dangerous moment, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
Oh, beautiful framing and tension you could cut with a knife. Just like, oh, someone's gonna die. Oh no, someone's leaving. Someone's gonna die later.
Who's gonna flinch first? I think that's what it said in the script, actually.
Really?
Like, pose the question, who will flinch first? Yeah.
And then Simcoe just gets up and walks away.
Yeah.
I love, too, that shout out to the DP in this episode because their rack focuses were super on point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that first scene when he sits down, when Hewlett sits down, I was like, oh, okay, he's sitting down alone. Like, this is going to be a scene about how he's come back and he's alone. And then just a simple rack focus and boom, there's Simcoe.
That's right.
It was fantastic.
Simple is often best, right?
Yeah, that's the best way to go about it. So, talking about Simcoe...
By the way, Alexander Rose, who wrote this episode, was really upset that in the script what was supposed to happen was the epaulets were supposed to just brush. That was how it was written. It was really poetic and beautiful. And it was either a full-on like shoulder bang or like a high and wide miss. And the best one we got, I think, because everything else was great. But like you'll hear, I think he made a comment about it on Twitter on the night. But he's still a little upset that it never quite ruffled the epaulette.
But you couldn't just aim your shoulders correctly?
I thought I got it. But funnily enough, my mind is on other things.
Blocking is hard, guys.
Yeah, well, it's not that hard.
Oh,
It's not as hard as I made it look.
The full-on shoulder check would have been like, and the scene is completely different because now we have a barroom brawl.
The full-on shoulder checks felt perfect, but it's not what was written.
I feel like either one would have worked because, again, a scene like that, you're not quite sure who's going to do what. So either one would have been completely fitting in my mind. But I like what turned out.
I will say that there were a couple that were perfect, but it was at the wrong angle for the camera.
Oh, no.
That's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean...
But when everything was in the right place, it didn't quite happen.
The stars can't always align.
Yeah. You didn't miss it.
I mean, honestly, what's there on the screen is what ends up happening. Like that, and no one's the wiser.
Regardless of intention, this is canon.
What is, oh gosh, there was a saying that one of my teachers in school said, like, something about, like, it's just what ends up being there. Intention doesn't necessarily have to play into it. It's just what the audience takes away. And what the audience takes away, they don't get to see all the bloopers and the behind the scenes. So, like, what ends up on the screen is what matters.
I want a blooper reel, though.
There is one.
Oh,
There is one. I don't think we
it.
see it at the rap party.
Oh,
I don't know whether they ever see the light of day. Maybe one day it will. The one from this season's amazing because it also is kind of a summation of each character's bloopers across the 4 seasons. So it went on for a long time, but it was like really entertaining.
Why are you telling me about things I can't have?
I know, yeah, it's really cruel, isn't it? But we don't have it either. We get to see it once. And then,
But you've seen it.
Well, I've seen it, yeah.
Maybe on the DVD
Well,
release?
there has to be some perks, doesn't there? Maybe on the DVD release.
Maybe on the Blu-ray. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Pretty please, if we ask very nicely.
We have all sorts of fun chatter in the
gets lighting
chat,
up?
and
What's
I
going on?
actually want to segue a little
Go
bit
for it.
because James in chat says without Simcoe everything would just be too easy for Abraham. I'm like, no. Abraham makes his own problems.
He does. He makes it
Abraham
perfectly
is not
difficult for himself.
He's not a good spy.
No.
He would have been a great lawyer.
Yeah.
He's not a good spy.
Not a good farmer, not a good spy. Yeah, would have been good.
He's
So
very,
no.
very fast, though.
Yeah.
You get him on the run, you can't catch him.
Are we
Have you
speaking from
noticed how much of a
experience?
good runner Abraham Woodhull is?
I mean, I feel like if he wasn't hard to catch, Simcoe would have gotten him already.
That's right.
Which is such an interesting turn for this season, too. Damn it.
1-1.
Son of a gun.
1-1-0.
Hey, turnabout is fair play.
Oh. See, it's not as good when it's not an accident.
It's never an accident with me.
You people see what I have to deal with.
It's intentional.
But it's...
Lovely. Lovely stuff.
Nah. But with...
That's right. It's the last season. You might as well get him out of the way.
no, it doesn't stop. It
That's-
is eternal.
So anyway,
She's gonna kill me.
back to this episode. It is an interesting kind of plot development that, now I'm trying not to use that word, that Simcoe was able to deduce so quickly Culper's actual identity. And it's been really fun to sort of see him kind of play around with that information and mull it over. And it's really great, too, because I believe at this point he doesn't actually know that Abe is still alive, if I'm correct.
Where are we?
Episode 6, Man in New York. Simcoe's super focused on Hewlett.
He's not seen him yet.
Yeah.
That's correct.
They had that brilliant misdirect in the last episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think he knows yet. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to play out in a fun way.
Yes.
Well, and I'm waiting for the
My lips
no
are sealed.
that yeah. I'm waiting for the no that ambush was by the Queen's Rangers information to
Yeah.
get out at some point.
Yeah. And not to mention, too, that, again, we've talked about this before. Simcoe's a smart guy. He's able to deduce very quickly that he's like, yeah, Hewlett did that on his own? Sure. I'm sure. I'm sure that's absolutely 100% the case. So I don't feel like it's going to take him too long to figure it out.
Right.
But we'll see. The element of the surprise.
He's come to him. He didn't even have to go after him.
That's true. But another side of Simcoe that we get to see this season is also kind of master manipulator and planner. He was always a good planner, but I feel like this season in particular, he's gotten to a different level of like manipulation with his relationship with Benedict Arnold.
Yeah.
There was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a cut scene where he sort of goaded Philomena into going to kind of talk to Peggy or vice versa. So he's been kind of
Yeah. How did you know about that?
Our sources.
Has Amy been in?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that wasn't anything we talked about on the show. But yeah, there was that cut scene.
Yeah, I remember watching the episode and going, what happened? Where did that go?
You're influencing her from afar.
That was a whole day.
That's probably the most upsetting thing, too, is you guys work really hard to put the show together, and then, of course, there's a time, and not everything can make it in.
Yeah, it's all part of the job. It's fine. You know, I mean, you've got to tell the story, and it wasn't vital. You know, the job was being done elsewhere. I understand that.
But it does give different character context.
It was just fun. It was just fun for what was fun about it was just Simcoe and Lola, and not Lola. That was a different.
We'll talk about that.
That was a different. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
But Simcoe and Philomena, are two characters on the fringes of the war in some ways, and it was fun for them to just kind of have that moment together.
Yeah.
By the punch bowl.
I wish we could have. Again, hopefully it'll be on the Blu-ray release. That would be great. Deleted scenes.
Speaking of that, didn't you enjoy the detail of the peapots?
Oh no, that was terrible.
Isn't it a nice detail about history? That
Historical accuracy.
I feel like
what happens in between?
I don't know.
I wonder. These are the questions that keep me up at night.
I don't know, and I don't want to know. The less I know about that, the better.
I'm sure there's a wiki page.
There must be.
Sure, I don't want to.
Someone's going to work on it right now. Now we mentioned it.
There are certain things about this show, talking about like the day-to-day life of people during this time period, that I'm like, oh, that's really fascinating to learn about. And that bit was fascinating. Did not need it. I could have gone the rest of my life without knowing.
But you liked it.
I admire this show's dedication to historical
Absolutely.
accuracy.
It's all in the detail.
Well, she's not going to walk in there and have a working toilet.
Speaking of...
That's right. That'd be wrong. Yeah.
Speaking of, that scene did lead to one of the episode's probably biggest confrontations, talking about characters who kind of speak in dual meaning. Peggy confronting Cicero was also sort of a nail-biter.
Fantastic.
Both times.
Both times.
The Peggy arc is just unbelievable this season, isn't it?
Ksenia's killing it. Like,
Well, she
she's
always
just
does. She's
amazing.
brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, like just the way she digs, like you can tell she's furious, but it's just under this polite veil of pleasantries and like, oh, what was his name again? It was fantastic, and it led up to one of like for Abigail. That particular scene where Peggy confronts Cicero at the very end, and Cicero comes clean to her about Abe actually being a spy.
Abigail in the bedroom with the candlestick.
Masterful pacing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, just seeing her slowly pick it up and slowly raise it, because there's so much going into that, because obviously Abigail cares about Peggy, but when push comes to shove,
That's her kid. That's her
Cicero's
kid.
the most important thing to her. Ugh.
Yeah, family first.
And just that, oh, there's a scheme. I want in. What?
It's a shotgun.
Plot twist.
But at the same time, it's so much of a relief, because for one, it means Abigail doesn't have to hurt anybody in this moment. And two, we've seen Arnold just consistently disrespect and disregard Peggy at
it's a
every
really unpleasant
turn.
marriage right now.
It's terrible. So, like, seeing her go, yeah, I want in on this scheme, is both shocking but 100% fitting. And it was a perfect way to end the episode.
We had this blow up from Arnold earlier because he knows he's been manipulated, and he knows he's been manipulated by his wife. And he's one of those people where he's so easy to manipulate. Oh my God, as long as you don't let on, as long as he doesn't find out. If Abe is a bad spy, Arnold just isn't even one. He's so far out of the loop of what he's supposed to be doing.
Such a short fuse.
He does, and he's very surface
He doesn't
about
have the temperament for
everything.
politics or spying.
He doesn't have the temperament. He doesn't have. I don't think he has the ability to look at things in layers. It's always very Occam's razor, and that's not always correct. And so knowing that he's been jerked around by people who can see more sides of a situation and manipulate them is one of the easiest ways to set him off. So he's already mad at his wife. Things escalate, and it basically turns into, congratulations, I don't see you as a person. You're here to tend to me and make children. Bye. Like, that's it. That
For the rest of your life.
Just like the real life Benedict Arnold, he really is his own worst enemy.
Oh, yeah. Because if this had been a better marriage, this also would have been the end of Abe.
Yeah.
Like, she would have gotten that info out of Cicero, and he would have been done.
Assuming Abigail didn't murder her in this moment.
This is also true. But, yeah, no, this could have gone so much better for him had he bothered to see his wife as a human being. But, meh.
Yeah.
But the marriage wasn't really built on a firm foundation, was it? Let's be honest.
No.
Your job is to give me status and also children.
He kind.
Bye.
What's sad is
And she was trying to help Andre. So
What's sad is that he did blow his one opportunity to make this marriage work, because she was genuinely excited to tell him that she was pregnant, and
it's
he
heartbreaking,
just
wasn't it?
completely ruined it. Oh, you guys are killing me. But it's so good.
But it felt real, you know. That's
Yeah.
what's great about it.
Yeah, this show is so freaking upsetting. But
Lots of screaming and throwing of pillows and scaring the cat. I think I screamed straight through the credits after I went in. What?
Yeah.
But talking about how great our female spies are in this episode on the New York front, going back to camp, we get a lot of really great spy work going on that from both the men and the women, because like this episode starts off in, again, kind of another brilliant misdirect, because we have a fight break out between Caleb and this I want to say he's a captain?
I think so.
Yeah, and it turns out that...
Shump.
Yeah, and that it's all for show, that it's actually part of their plan to get a spy straight to Arnold and
With a bunch of false information.
exactly to get like a confidant to go and help Abe in New York as well, to help kidnap Arnold. And this, again, talking about another really brilliant sort of setup and great foreshadowing, is we have Caleb sharpening his axe at the very beginning of the episode, and he nicks himself. And it's just this very, very subtle way of showing that he's still not quite 100% recuperated.
It's not right, is he?
No!
Thanks.
I wonder what happened to him. It's really...
We had a question in the chat about that scene, actually, and it was a ways up the torture scene. Like, what was your inspiration? How did you do all of that?
What was my
Like, what was your,
inspiration?
what's your
That's a great
inspiration for
question.
Simcoe in general? And
Well,
Yeah.
it's a great parallel, and we talked about this a little earlier, but it's a great parallel back to season 1.
That's right.
So that must have been kind of an interesting turnaround to have...
turn around.
Stop it. No.
I clock that one as
Not
well.
even going to acknowledge it. Stop.
It's like 3, honestly.
But as long as you're keeping track,
Yeah,
we'll
I
have a
got it.
final count at the end
It's
of the
all in it,
episode.
all in it.
But it must be nice because the situation's now reversed.
Yeah.
And so that must have been kind of fun for you guys to play off of.
It was, and you know, Dan Henschel and I have a really great working relationship. We kind of come to the work from a similar place, and we're all in. So there's a lot of trust there, and but there's also, you know, the gloves really come off. I mean, he, you know, with my permission, like knocks me around a fair bit in season 1, and the same thing happened this time around. I mean, it was slightly different this time because, you know, they were cuts versus kind of like.
It was
really
more
manhandling.
makeup as opposed to actually
Yeah,
being
there was a lot more.
thrashed
There was a
around.
lot more effects involved, but like
He was tied to a chair. You were hanging from a post.
yeah, that wasn't good. I hurt some nerves during that scene.
Oh.
But you know, but it's a really intense thing, and you know, I'm glad it's Dan. Like, I'm glad that we can work in that way together. But you do have to kind of shake that thing off at the end of that day. It's like kind of draining.
Yeah.
And it goes on for a very, very long time, that scene, and you know, we're in that room kind of, you know, being brutal.
Yeah,
for
and
a long time.
Just the nature of production too. It takes a long time to film. As you mentioned, the one scene that got cut was an entire day of filming. So that's a long time to be in this really dark headspace.
That's right. Yeah,
too.
yeah. That's definitely part of it. You know, we have a good laugh along the way, obviously, but yeah, it's. I think the worst part of that. I mean, obviously, like physically, he's like just ripped to shreds, but at the same time, like psychologically, that's the biggest impact of that scene, and we're still seeing it on Caleb. But it was lovely to, you know, this season is really about completing those arcs, and that was the first one that happened for Simcoe this season, is that Caleb recompense, you know.
Yeah. Seeing a lot of story elements come full circle. And again, kudos to the writing, because we as the audience also lost time with Caleb. We didn't get to hear whether or not he gave away any information, so we're just as much in the dark about what happened as he is. So,
Which is a good move for keeping up suspense for the audience.
Sure.
Exactly. But like here, we have that little bit of foreshadowing, and the payoff at the end of the episode is when he tries to shoot that guy. Obviously, he's intending to miss. He actually ends up hitting the guy square in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell that was not part of the plan.
It wasn't. No.
And Culper
they
is
also-
like, Good shot.
Yeah. Talmadge wasn't very happy about it, was he?
Well, we'd had that bit last episode with Abe training with the rifle, and we had the commander saying, you know, think of it as a spear that shoots. It's not the best shot. And so we know that about the rifles, which is why Mary's shot was still just amazing. But I'm not over that. It's so great. And the makeup on the ear is also really good.
Yeah, given that he experienced ear damage after that, I imagine that kind of affects his hearing in a way. Has that affected your performance in any way? Like, does he have to kind of shift to hear a situation better?
We chose not to go down that road, actually. So it's an external injury. I think those things seem like a good idea at the time.
Then it just becomes a logistical nightmare.
It can be a little bit of a shackle going forward. But I mean, the makeup part of it is incredible. Like every single day that I go to work, a new piece has been made.
Wow.
Like a whole new mold has been. Well, the mold is the same, but a whole new ear has been produced.
Oh my goodness!
And then we go through the rigmarole of, you know, gluing down my ear and putting a new one over the top. And
how long does makeup usually take?
It's not terrible. It's a couple of hours in the morning, and it's like half an hour out of it at the end of the day. I mean, it did added a full hour to my get ready time.
Yeah.
So when I read it in the script, I did have a conversation with Craig Silverstein, and just to make sure that he really did want to do this, because now you have to bring me in a full hour earlier every day. And of course, he's like, well, that's your problem. It's not mine. So yeah, he did go.
Be sure to make a stop by Starbucks.
It's a good story. Let's do it. You know. So you know, it's fun. It still grosses my missus out. Yeah.
Again, it's wonderful prosthetic work. When this show decides to show, I feel like this show isn't very gratuitous, but when it does decide to do blood and gore, it likes that gritty sort of realism. Ugh.
Yeah. Actually, we filmed on location. I won't tell you where because it'll be a spoiler. But we filmed somewhere really historically accurate.
Nice.
In further down the road, and we're in a different place, and usually there's nothing around us. Like we're in the middle of a field, in the middle of a forest, just nowhere. But this time we were really a stone's throw from some shops and cafes. So I threw on my civvies and walked down with my friend Sloan from costume to get a coffee, and we went into some ice cream shop to get a coffee. Maybe an ice cream too. I didn't have an ice cream. We're getting away from the story here, but I've got to think. Anyway, so I'm standing in line, and then someone's sort of giving me the eye, and like looking at me a bit strangely. I'm like, oh, here we go. You wait. They'll be over in a minute. Fan of the show, love your work, and then I forgot that I had the ear.
Oh no!
It wasn't to do with anything. Because I was in my like civilian, they were just looking at me like I was gross.
They were like, "What happened to that guy?"
Like small children are having their parents' hands put over their, you know.
Don't look at him, honey.
Don't look at the elephant man. Yeah.
Oh God.
So.
I mean, that's a very natural thing to kind of forget that you're in costume or that you have a particular piece of makeup. We've both been zombie extras before, so yeah, after a while you kind of forget.
Catching a lift while in full zombie makeup was super fun.
Easy?
Yeah, actually. Please come out to the boonies to pick up 3 zombies. Thanks.
It was a hoot.
It worked.
But to kind of get back to, actually, we have a couple questions on Twitter. One person wants to know, and forgive me, I'm having issues pulling up the Twitter name. Kate Campbell on Twitter actually wants to know, just out of curiosity, out of all of your co-hosts, who has the best English accent?
Well, my the other actors that I work with, who has the best English accent? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they're all really good, aren't they? I mean, that's the whole point, is that they're all really convincing.
Specifically, the American co-stars.
So yeah, well, I think I feel like Ksenia has to come the furthest, because she sort of hasn't, she's from Toronto. Originally, I think she might.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she's spent a lot of time in Canada. Maybe grew up there. She certainly has goes back there quite a lot now. But she's sort of got the Canadian. She has a perfect American accent. She also has a perfect English accent. But it feels like she comes the furthest. But everyone has to do a little bit of English, really, because it's not, they're not American yet, not really.
I think the thing that surprised me most was the first time I heard Megan speak normally.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't have an American accent?
Right, yeah. The Australians are great at dialect. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You should hear Dan Henschel's American accent as well. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I think I need to at some point.
Yeah, I think you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all available for employment now, so it's going to happen a lot.
Well, we have Fan Film on Twitter also wants Turn to make some, specifically AMC, to make some Turn spin-offs, given that it's American
This sounds like a
history.
good idea. Let's go. What are we doing?
That would be fantastic. To sort of get back to kind of the spy plot, talking about historical accuracy, one of the things we really wanted to bring up is Mary's plot line in this episode, because she's having the same difficulty that Anna had when she first came to camp, in that she's constantly getting dismissed, and she's not wanting to listen to protocol because she's been in this just as long as everybody else but hasn't had to answer to anybody.
She's just a pillar of strength, isn't she?
Yeah.
Mary?
And
Whip smart.
Puts up with so much.
I'd say she's having it even worse, actually, because Anna was...
now she's living in a tent.
Yeah.
She's living in a
awful.
tent, and nobody has bothered to sort of show her the ropes. So she's out of her element for probably the first time all series, or more so all series. And that's when we find out that her name gets exposed to actually a and I'm really glad that they went this route, because we get the reveal that Anne Barnes is actually Bates. Well, she was going by Barnes.
Sorry.
But that Anne Barnes is actually Anne Bates, who was a real life historical spy. Do you have the little
do. Like I
blurb pulled
said,
up?
I've got the Wikipedia page pulled up. She was commonly referred to as Mrs. Barnes by affiliates in her spy network, was known to carry a token that would identify her as a British spy. She went to be part of British General Clinton's espionage network and helped the British combat the Americans on several fronts. She reportedly took part in various clandestine spy missions between 1778 and 1780, best known for her missions completed at George Washington's base camp in White Plains, New York, and during the Battle of Rhode Island, which I think this series has already passed, because again, we're backing up to Yorktown at this point.
But this is what I mean when I'm like, why are there only 4 episodes left? Because you've introduced Anne Bates, and I'm like, yes, more of that, please.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, oh, you're a spy too, but immediately assume it like, well, yeah,
Us
but not
Tories
like
gotta
you
stick together.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that's how Mary started out, and she just got punted out of the barn and told, no, you're not a part of this, you aren't. Whereas when Anna came in, it was, well, we're going to try and kind of keep you away a little, and, appearances are a little different, and I know you did a lot of work, and she really had to work for her position. Mary's just getting the door slammed in her face.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Which, again,
Is frustrating.
is really frustrating on a number of levels. Again, she's come the closest to killing Simcoe.
And she's a better spy than Abraham.
so much better.
Without her, they'd all be in big trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
The Culper Ring would have been compromised a long time ago.
Yeah.
But to kind of get back to over on the New York front, we definitely need to talk about Lola in this episode, because speaking about how Simcoe is this master manipulator, he kind of sunk to a new low, in my opinion, with his scheme to kill Hewlett, because he straight up laid it out as part of his plan of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, bring Hewlett to this prostitute's tent, murder him, and then murder her, and pin the murder on her as well. That's kind of, I know he's definitely done some terrible things leading around a group of mercenaries, but that in particular seems like a new low.
He killed a horse.
That was monstrous.
He shot a grandpa in the head.
He did. That proved he's
It's-
not above
It's
killing
sick.
civilians.
It is sick, but it is also an excellent plan.
It is.
It's real complicated.
If only it had come off.
Didn't quite work out that way.
Not quite.
But it is kind of also really fun too to see a different side of Simcoe, because it's been a long time since we've seen the romantic.
Yeah.
And like we haven't seen the romantic, I want to say, since the very beginning of season 2, which is when he was looking out the window like longing for Anna and writing poetry. And then once that sort of got thrown in his face and he became the leader of the Queen's Rangers, it's been, you know what? Just nothing but the brutality is all we've seen since then.
Right, and we can assume, I think, that he's been getting things that he's needed from other prostitutes.
Yeah.
But this girl really connects with him.
Yeah. Were you surprised when you saw the script of like actually seeing somebody make a human connection with Simcoe?
A little, yeah. I think they could have continued without it, and I don't think anybody would have been all that disappointed. But I've always known that there's that human side to him, even though he's, you know, his moral compass is just spinning around and around and around. You know,
Neutral evil.
Yeah. So I knew that part of him was there, and I thought it was a really brilliant way of investigating it, and I was really delighted. And Ryan Steele, who plays Lola, just does such a fine job of it.
Oh, she killed it. She
Yeah.
was fantastic.
She's
Obviously,
really, really
we don't
great.
want any spoilers, but I hope we get to see more of her as the season progresses. So
She's the only
fingers
one
crossed
that's been able to stick a blade into Simcoe and not have repercussions.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Like
right.
the only person on the series,
Yeah. I think she really kind of gets under his skin, you know, and it's
so to speak.
so to speak.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And it's and it disarms him, really disarms him.
Yeah, it shows a level. She says, "Trust me," and this is a guy who is a master manipulator. He's planning to kill her that very night. She says, "Trust me," and he's like, "Yep, that sounds like a good idea. 100% in."
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to matter afterwards because she'll be dead. Oh, I don't have a reason to kill her now.
I really don't think that. Like, I feel like they hit a certain point in the conversation where he changed his mind.
Not sure he
wasn't-
wants to kill her, yeah.
He wasn't going to do that anymore. And
He also, you know, he likes a bit of the violence. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's that kind of lover.
yeah, and
He didn't know. That's the other thing. He didn't. He probably didn't know. Or that's how we played it. Is that he didn't know that he liked that. You know, and he finds out during the.
he was like, "Oh, hey."
He looks down and goes,
It's
"Oh
like,
no, I'm kinky."
this is, you know, this is pretty good. You know, it's kind of, you know, what's that film? 50 Shades of.
50
yeah.
Shades of
a little
Grey.
bit like that, isn't it?
Would this be like 50 Shades of Green because of the Queen's Rangers uniform?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
There we go. I'm sure there's already a fan fiction that exists out
I'm
there.
not the first person to coin that
but
phrase, but.
But it is cool actually getting, again, to see somebody make, to anybody to get under his skin,
Yeah.
particularly somebody he was planning on using and manipulating. And we do need to talk about Rochambeau really, really quick. We are running short on time. But it was really cool also to see Rochambeau and Lafayette again. Because this was a great scene showing how frustrated Washington is, but also like how the French who eventually come to our aid
Needs them.
Yeah, how much he needs them and how much it frustrates him. I think what he said was, we have the prize within our grasp and they want to go chasing fool's gold. And again, fantastic writing on this show.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see. This isn't too much of a spoiler, but you're going to see the conflict between Arnold and Simcoe really kind of ratchets up as we move forward. And again, it's on the other side of the war. You have the conflict over what the right strategy is, and especially as the war is clearly building to a finish. I think that even the real people in the war can sense that it's not long before this thing breaks one way or the other. That people are really starting to think about what's going to happen afterwards, and you know what is it. And so for the French, like, what does it mean for us? You know, we can't afford to lose. Like, we can't afford to come in and lose. So everyone's being very decisive and not necessarily making the right decisions, and it's really interesting how that power struggle develops as the season goes on.
Yeah. It's also fascinating to see again these historical figures we put on pedestals humanized, and
But we believe Ian Khan is Washington now, don't we? So
Yes.
you know, so he comes on the screen, you're like, yeah, it's Washington. Yeah. Yeah. So when you see Washington like having a problem, you believe it. I don't see the actor anymore. I just see
he's just Washington.
yeah.
Here comes the general.
Yeah.
Sadly, we are running short on time, so I feel like that basically wraps it up for this episode in particular. Samuel, do you have any upcoming projects that you can tell us about that you would like all of our viewers at home to know about?
I don't know if I can tell you. I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm doing.
Well, all right.
I seem to remember something about don't talk about it, but I think it's all right now. I'm
It's an NDA.
I'm doing an episode of the. I've done an episode of The Librarians
Nice.
That's awesome.
on TNT. Yeah.
We have a lot of Librarians fans here at
Oh, I know
AFTERBUZZ.
what I can't tell you what I do on The Librarians.
Okay.
All I can tell you is that I've done it, and it was thrilling, and they're fantastic. That was such a lovely job. So yeah, I've done that. But I also have a couple of projects of my own that I've been working on. So I'm just about to finish post-production on my first short film, The Break,
Nice.
which is about an up-and-coming DJ in New York, and that's so that's going to be finished soon, and we'll be sending that off to festivals. So that's really exciting.
We actually had a question in the hashtag talking about what your influences were as a DJ. Wanting to know.
Well, my influences are all from like the early '90s. I was listening to DJs like Sasha, Digweed, Jeremy Healy, Paul Oakenfold, Carl Cox, all those guys. They were my big influences. Yeah.
Awesome.
All the early acid house and house music as it started developing in the UK. Yeah.
Well, again, cannot say thank you enough for taking the time to join us tonight. It's been
Yeah.
an absolute pleasure getting to have
Me
you on the
too.
show again. Open invitation anytime you want to come back
Yeah.
as our new lead host.
Sure. Happy to be here.
Where can people go if they want to keep up with you and all of your projects?
So you can get me on Twitter at Samuel Roukin. You can get me on Facebook at Samuel Roukin Official, and on Instagram it's Ruka's Vision.
Fantastic.
That's
Again,
it.
thank you so much. Katie, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
You can follow me all over the social medias and on YouTube at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. Robots in Disguise comes back in a soonish manner. Red vs. Blue and Camp Camper every few weeks. Keep an eye on our respective Twitters. We will be letting you know when those dates are. And I am also a host on Silver Screams and on Gather Your Party, which is on Friday nights on Geek and Sundry at 9:30 because we're going late in the summers.
Want to say thank you really quick to everybody in the live chat, everybody in the hashtag. You guys are fantastic. And the best way to let our producers know you like the show that we're putting on is by going to iTunes to rate and leave a comment. We don't have time to read off the comments this time.
Next week.
Next week, we promise we will read the comments we haven't been reading for the past 2 weeks. But I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I am also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, and I write articles for the Movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out. Be sure to also check out the Shadow Radio recreation where I do the voice of Margot Lane, and I feel like that's everything. Anyway, again, thank you so much, Samuel, for coming in. Thank you to everybody who's watching live. We will see you all next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.